For our speaker series, we will be going
The Ohio Harness Horsemen's Association presents Trackside Live. Trackside Live is presented by the Ohio State Veterinary Medical Center. Now let's go trackside to the Delaware County Fairgrounds and your host, Frank Froz.
Good morning, everybody, and welcome to Trackside Live, day 4 of 5 days in Delaware. I'm Frank Froz, and this is our speaker series from the OHHA tent. Glad to have everybody along with us today. And today we're going to kick off our Trackside Live speaker series with Dr. Ian Moore, the newly inducted member of the Canadian Harness Racing Hall of Fame. Dr. Moore, thanks for joining us today.
Good morning, everyone.
Give you a little background on Dr. Moore. He started his training career in 1971, and that helped finance his veterinary education. He has over 700 victories. His horses have earned purses over $23 million, 10 times earning over $1 million in a year. Welcome back to Delaware.
Thanks very much. I love it here.
You won the Little Brown Jug here in 2008 with Shadow Play. When you walk back on the grounds, does it bring back memories?
Oh, it sure does. That was probably one of the most memorable moments that we as a family have ever had in harness racing. And my wife and I took a walk around the carnival, you know, the midway and everything yesterday. There's a place over in this turn here where there was a flower bed in 2008. They still got the little hill there, but there's no flowers on it, probably because everything's so dried up here in Ohio. But the flower bed was when Shadow Play said, "See you later," and took off. So we were looking at that yesterday and speaking about it. And we actually had to stay till Saturday of that year, because if you remember, he had the foot problem. I was too lame to take home. So we spent some time around the fair, and we really enjoyed ourselves.
I read where you said this is your favorite place. Is it still one of your favorite tracks?
It sure is. The track is like a pool table here. It's just kept immaculate. And you know, when a lot of people today won't race horses on half-mile tracks. Well, this is not really a half-mile track. It is in length, I guess, but it's totally different than all the others. And I haven't had any horses that can't get around this track, and I don't think there has been many over the years. So it's still one of my favorite places. Ohio is my favorite state, probably. Harness racing and the rural aspect of Ohio, how the fans come out. Like last year, for example, in Scioto, when they had all the finals of the Ohio Stakes, the place was packed. They started at 5 o'clock, at 11:45. The last race went off, and there's still the same number of people there. You never see that anywhere else anymore. I saw that growing up in my hometown on Prince Edward Island, very, very much the same. And a lot of the jug people have gone to PEI for their old home week, which is much like Jug Week here, and vice versa. And I really love it here.
That Little Brown Jug back in 2008, what do you remember the most about it?
Well, it was our first time trying the Little Brown Jug, and anytime I've had a 3-year-old that's anywhere near capable since then, I've always come here. And we had a lot of drama with that. Obviously, after that first heat, the story goes that the horse came up a little bit lame after the first heat, and we were in the first of 3 eliminations that day, and we had an hour and a half before we went to the final. We needed every single minute of that time to get that horse ready to race for the final, and he had a heart of gold, and it's just fantastic. There's so many moments I can remember about that whole thing and how gratifying it was. The horse walked back to the test barn, and once he got by that VIP tent over there, he started showing lame again, but before that he didn't. And it was just a fantastic day with a ton of memories. One of the partners got a book made with all these pictures in it, and I still look through those pictures every once in a while when I'm having a down day, and it picks me up every time.
We're going to talk some more about racing in a bit, but tell everybody how you got into the business.
Well, it's a bit interesting story. None of my family was involved in any kind of horse racing. My mother actually despised it because her father was a gambler, and many times I guess he used to go lose all his money. They didn't have any food to eat at night, that day, sort of thing. So she hated it. But I went to school in a small town called Summerside in Prince Edward Island, which is Canada's smallest province, had about 125,000 people as a total population of the whole province at the time. And the janitor of my school, he had racehorses, and he came from, his last name was Chappell, and the Chappell family was well known with harness racing at the time on PEI and the Maritimes in general. So he took me to the track one day after school. I'd be about around 12, 13 years old, I guess, and it all sort of went from there. I loved it. And then it was a few days later, my mother actually helped instigate it as well. They had the RCMP musical ride, which is the Royal Canadian Mounted Police have a musical ride, they call it, with all these horses, the fancy horses they have, and they were at the track in between races. So she took me to see that, and of course I had to stay and see some of the races while it was all over then. So I actually quit school a couple times when I was younger. I was 14. I left Prince Edward Island, and I went to the Meadows in Pennsylvania, worked for Cecil Champion, who was one of the top trainers at the time, and went back to school, and then I quit again after 1 year of college. But the last person I worked with after my last time quitting, he was a veterinarian from Prince Edward Island, which was interesting, and he was one of the top 5 trainers on the Ontario Jockey Club, it was called at the time, in Ontario, where they had Mohawk and Garden City and St. Catharines and Greenwood Raceway in Toronto. And he convinced me to go back to school, so I ended up with the best of both worlds, I guess. I've made a career and a lifestyle out of horses as a veterinarian and as a trainer, and I've enjoyed every minute of it.
How does a 2-time dropout get through veterinarian school?
Well, it's interesting. The first year I spent in college, it was in Nova Scotia, and Truro Raceway was 5 minutes away. I could go in the bathroom upstairs in the 3rd floor and see the lights of the track. So I spent a lot of my time there. they gave me 50s and everything to get me through school, and they kept telling me I should be doing way better, blah, blah, blah. But, so anyway, after quitting the second time, I did go back, and my mother says, no horses and you'll do fine. So I ended up with a 72 average, something like that, I guess, overall that semester. And she said, I told you so. So then the provincial government gave me a $600 bursary at Christmas time because I did so well. So guess what I did with that money? I went and bought a horse. So my mother was furious, but I tried so much harder then. And as I was racing that horse and funding my way through school, I never had any money from my parents. And then I ended up with a 78 average that spring. So it went very well. The hardest part of vet school is actually getting into it. And it's the same in Ohio here, at Ohio State, all the veterinary colleges across North America. But once you get into it, when I left, it was about $50,000 a year to put, or sorry, $50,000 a year to put a student through vet school, total cost. So once you're in, they're going to make sure you get through. You'd have to be pretty stupid not to get through once you're in. So once I was in, that was good. I kept 3 horses the whole time during college and raced horses. I played hockey, played ball, did everything, enjoyed life very much when I went to school. Those were pretty good days, actually. So, yeah.
You've won over 700 races. Do you remember your first training win?
Let me see. Maybe not. I remember my first driving win. I never had big numbers, which is why I don't know what the total lifetime starts are now. But you know, guys like Ron Burke have more starts in a month than I had in a lifetime probably, and so I was always small. And part of that was to do with my veterinary career. I was a career guy first, and secondarily with horses. The year we had shadow play, I think we had 10 or 11 horses that year, which is most we ever had. And as time rolled on after that, I started to get more into young horses, training babies in the winter, and trying to make 2-year-old race horses. The first training win would probably have been, let me see. Yeah, I don't remember that. Nobody's ever asked me that question. I can tell you the first driving win was a horse called Mark Perdue in 1971, 2:13-1 at Charlottetown Driving Park on PEI. Had the rail and went right to the front and kept right on going.
There you go. You were inducted into the Canadian Horse Racing Hall of Fame several months ago. What was it like when you got that call?
Oh, that was very humbling and quite an honor for me. Just a small-time guy, and I never expected anything like that, so I was very, very humbled and very appreciative, and it's always nice to be recognized by your peers and people in the industry, and it's something I'll treasure for a long, long time, just having that honor of being in that Hall of Fame with, you know, unbelievable names of people and horses in there, so it's something that I'll always treasure.
Well, we're going to take a break, and when we come back, we're going to talk a little bit about racing. We're going to talk a little bit about shadow play and your entry today in the Jug, odds on platinum, when we return to the Delaware County Fairgrounds right after this. At Ohio State's Galbraith Equine Center, our veterinary champions are here for your champions 24/7, 365 days a year. Our expert team of boarded surgeons, sports medicine and rehabilitation specialists, together with veterinary cardiologists, internal medicine, and ophthalmologists, make our hospital your best resource for all sport horse performance issues. The Ohio State Veterinary Medical Center's Galbraith Equine Hospital. Call us today at 614-292-6661.
The future is bright in Ohio. Ohio Sire Stakes, Buckeye Stallion Series, 66 county and independent fairs. Whether it's the Ohio Sire Stakes, the Buckeye Stallion Series, or the county fairs, Ohio has a place for your racehorse. This year, Ohio breds are racing for nearly $23 million in stakes purses. Be part of the winning. Breed, buy, race, win in Ohio.
Welcome back to the Delaware County Fairgrounds and Trackside Live, our speaker series. Frank Froz along with Dr. Ian Moore. And before we talk about odds on platinum, what makes shadow play so special?
Well, obviously he won a lot of big races. He made $1.5 million as a 3-year-old that year. He was just a fantastic horse, fast, terrific desire to race and to win. And you know, any other year, like first of all, there hasn't been many 3-year-olds come out of Canada that made $1.5 million. Even today, the list is probably very short. And any other year, that was the year of somebody somewhere, obviously. So any other year, he might have been top 3-year-old in the country. We were always second to him. We traveled all over the place. We were in Chicago, we were in New Jersey, New York, all over with him, and I enjoyed it. It was very special with him, for sure.
You've won some big races in your career. Where does the Jug rank in that list of all those great races you've won?
Well, the Jug would have to be number one. I get asked that question a lot. I won the Gold Cup and Saucer in my hometown in 1988, which would be a close second, but winning the Jug with Shadow Play in 2008 still my best memory, my best moment in harness racing.
In your career, there's not many more firsts, but today we have a first. It's your first time in the Jug you have odds on Platinum, hoping to add it to the trophy case. You're the second choice on the morning line in the second heat. What do you like about odds on Platinum?
Well, odds on Platinum has really developed and turned into a really nice filly. She was a nice 2-year-old, had a lot of seconds, not a lot of wins, and this year she's matured, and as they often do, from 2 to 3-year-old, and she's turned into a very, very nice filly. And yes, it's my first time in the Jug yet. We've had several colts in the Jug, but I've never had any top fillies before. So she beat all the top fillies in Pocono a couple weeks ago, and so I'm quite optimistic for her today. She seemed to have a good few days here. She came down on Sunday, and I had her out this morning for a little bit of a jog, keep her quiet for the day till it's time to go. So we're hoping for a good showing here today.
Now, did you take her out and jog her yourself?
I certainly did, yeah.
What's it like sitting behind her?
Oh, it's, like I said, she's turned into a lovely filly. She used to be quite aggressive last year. As we got down to qualifying time, she got really aggressive on the track and a little bit difficult to handle some days. But this year, she's all over that. We don't even put earplugs in her now, although we did here just in case, because there's a bit more activity going on here. But she'll just jog along, very nice. She had some tying up issues, which, as everybody knows, is very common in young fillies nowadays in today's world, but seems to have overcome all that recently. And I never jog her over 4 miles because of that. Any mares that I've had that have tying up issues, I jogged them maybe 2 to 3 miles on the first day after a couple of days off after a race, and I never go over 4 miles. It seems like the more mileage you go with the tie-up mare, that's when you're going to get into trouble, I've found. So, as well as other management changes as well. But she hasn't had any of that, and hopefully she won't today. Of course, like everybody else in the race today, she's never gone two heats before. I don't think it'll be any different. I never changed my training, my training protocols because of it, nor did I do that in 2008 either. So the good ones will do it for you no matter what. And in my younger days, and I'm sure you would remember, we always raced 2 heats all the time. That was the way it went back then. You went and raced 1 and race 5 or whatever. And we used to train 2 sets of double headers, sometimes 5 or 6 trips a day. So it's so different today. The horses are faster, but they're a lot more fragile maybe than they were 40 years ago too.
Do you still train that way, or have you changed your training style and plan over the years? Yeah,
I've changed over the years. You have to, I guess, because the standardbred of today is so much different in a lot of ways. So what I used to do when I was younger, and I'm talking in my teen years, I used to go to tracks all over the place, and I would watch the top trainers and the top drivers and see what they did, with their horses, and I'd take a little bit of this, a little bit of that, and I came up with my own protocols as time went on. And they're not set in stone. I adjust for whether they raced good last week or whether they didn't race good last week, whether they've been sick, whether they've been lame, whatever. So I think it's, a lot of the top trainers today, and I'm not saying I'm one of them, but a lot of them are, they get to know their horses, which is, you asked me, did I jog her today? I always jog all my best ones. I always make sure I jog every horse in the barn at least a couple times every week. And I know if you have 100 horses, that's difficult sometimes, but I don't go over 20 in recent years. I turned 70 years old in January past, and I'm trying to cut down, but we're still going to end up with about 20 this winter probably. So yeah, once you get to know your horse and know what they like, you can make a program that's going to fit that horse. They're all different. We treat them all differently.
Do you think being a vet is an advantage to you as a trainer to get to know what's happening to the horse, physically?
100%. I spent, before I became a veterinarian, I would have had, at least about 15 years in the horse racing business. And so what I learned from trainers, drivers, grooms, and what I learned from my own experience with horses, I put that into my veterinary career as well, and now it's come back the other way over the years. I used to teach at the Atlantic Veterinary College in Charlottetown, PEI, for 13 years, and we had students from all over North America, California, everywhere, and they're all good students. And I used to tell them, you can, when you go to a trainer's barn today, most trainers would already have the problem diagnosed. They've got a bow tendon or whatever. There it is. So it's no big deal. But I used to tell the students, don't just walk in and diagnose it and treat it and walk out. Walk in and try and figure out why that horse had a bow tendon. Was it training mismanagement? Was it shoeing mismanagement? Was it poor track conditions or over racing or whatever? And so try and develop that attitude where you're going to try to figure that out. So you can learn from it. So you may be able to help other trainers, prevent that problem from happening to one of theirs, and that you will understand the problem more thoroughly, and you'll be able to treat it more readily because you'll know what it needs to have, I guess. So that's kind of a short way of saying it, but I always get right into a problem in a lot more depth than a lot of people do, perhaps, and I extrapolate from training to veterinary and back and forth, and I have for the last 42 years. I've been an equine veterinarian, and again, I've enjoyed every moment of that as well, and it's helped me immensely for sure.
Todd McCarthy will drive for you today. He won with Odds on Platinum last month in the $250,000 James Lynch Memorial. Will you give him any advice, or do you just let the driver make the decisions?
I rarely give them advice. Like I said, I drove myself, so I understand the situation some. But if we got a bad drive last week, I might tend to say something. So I might say maybe we need to leave today, or maybe we don't need to leave, or whatever. But Todd's a pretty good kid. And like myself, Todd got his private pilot's license last spring, so we talk planes a lot. So when he's around, we actually talk planes more than horses. So when we're over there waiting for him to come around and take the lines today, I'll just say everything's great. She has had a few good days here, and let's see what we can do. That's probably all he'll get today. And he knows the deal. So, and all the good drivers do, and that's why they're good drivers, I guess. So,
well, we're going to take a quick break, and when we come back, we're going to talk about Clever Cody, who will be in the Ohio Breeders' Championship on Thursday when we return to the Delaware County Fairgrounds.
Volstead, Coach K. Hanover, Slay, Ohio's top trotters stand at Dublin Valley Farms. Volstead's offspring include Sugar Instead, the 2023 Ohio 2-year-old Trotting Filly of the Year, and 2024 Ohio Sire Stakes winner Jurassic Hattie. Coach K. Hanover, the son of world record holder Walner, and Slay, the son of Chapter 7, standing his first season at Dublin Valley Farms.
With more than 300,000 horses in Ohio, the economic impact of the equine industry in the state is over $2.8 billion. Much of that value comes from standardbred horse owners, breeders, trainers, and drivers who participate in the sport of harness racing. The mission of the Ohio Harness Horsemen's Association is to preserve, protect, promote, and serve the entire standardbred industry in Ohio and beyond. To learn more about the Ohio Harness Horsemen's Association, go to ohha.com. That's ohha.com.
Welcome back to the Delaware County Fairgrounds and Trackside Live, our speaker series. Frank Froz along with Dr. Ian Moore. Let's talk about Clever Cody a little bit. He was the 2-year-old Pacer of the Year in Ohio. He's won 4 races this year, but he's been a bit of a handful for you.
Yeah, he's been somewhat of a struggle at times, but and things didn't quite go the way we anticipated after a great 2-year-old season. He was one of the nicest 2-year-olds I ever had, but right from the get-go, the first day I schooled him, he had trouble behind the starting gate, and I guess that's what you're alluding to, and it continued on this year, and it didn't seem to matter. I could jog him 6 miles behind the gate on his own, he'd never lift a head, but put 2 horses beside him and go the right way, totally different story, and didn't seem to matter what I did, but anyway, I think we're on the right track now. He's had a few rough trips here in August at the Meadows and a couple here in Ohio, but Aaron Merriman, who's driven him almost exclusively, except a couple races at Woodbine and Mohawk, he gets along very well with him, and he understands the horse, and I think the horse understands him. So he's a very classy animal. You know, we anticipated perhaps being in the jug this year, and that hasn't developed. He seems to be a home state boy. He likes Ohio, so I put him in the Ohio Breeders' Championship tomorrow instead of the jug, and I think he'll be fine there. And then we'll be looking forward to the finals at Northfield in a couple weeks after that. So,
what went into that decision to decide jug, OBC?
Well, one of the partners said, well, you're going to, $50,000 for a 5th in the jug, and as it turns out, the purse, as you and I discussed here before we started, is a little bit lower this year. So, for a horse like him, that wouldn't be any good to him. He likes to win, and he's one of those horses that knows when he's done well. And you look at those 4 races he had in August that were all tough trips at the Adios, and then 2 here in Ohio. A lot of horses wouldn't bounce back from that, and he did. I just changed a few things, gave him a few more days off, and perhaps trained him a little bit lighter. But he came back. He was just beaten 51 at Northfield, and then won last week or a couple weeks ago, I guess, in Scioto. So, and I think he'll finish his year strong as well. So he's one of those horses right now where we need to pick our spots with. I think that's the best thing for that horse to keep him rolling. He's still growing. He's still a lot higher behind today, so he's still got some growing to do. And he's not. You have a 3-year-old that's not fully grown yet, fully developed. That usually means that things could get better as time goes on. So we've already had that. We, the partners, have already had a bit of a discussion about what we're going to do with him, and we're probably going to keep him and race him as a 4-year-old, especially with the 4-year-old stakes they have here in Ohio too, which, as you know, not many other jurisdictions do that anymore. So that's a good thing too.
Well, a couple more questions as our time is dwindling down. You mentioned you're a pilot. Is that the get away from the horses and calm down and relax activity?
It's to get away from everything. No matter what happens on the ground here today, if I go up there, it's just me in the clouds, and I love every minute of it. It's amazing. I can be stressed right out and all kinds of situations, and flying is just so calming for me, and I love it. I started late. I didn't get my pilot's license till early 2018, but I've learned a lot in that period of time, and I've flown a lot. I've got about 1,200 hours now in that period of time from late 17, I guess, till now. And I really enjoy it. I never drive anywhere anymore now. I flew a 25-minute flight last weekend to go to Clinton, Ontario to race there. What would have been an hour-and-a-half drive for me, but no, I flew 25 minutes and took a taxi to the track. So I do it all the time. I'm always looking for an excuse. It's got expensive fuel-wise, let me say that, especially in Canada. It's like 3 times as much for aviation fuel as it is here in the U.S., but I still love it. And I trained Cody on Monday morning and jogged a couple others, and then my wife and I left at 10:30. We were here at noontime in Delaware. So how can you beat that?
That sounds like fun. What's the best advice you have ever received in this business?
Well, I've received a lot of good advice from a lot of good people. And there's a lot of Except maybe in Ohio and a couple other places, a lot of jurisdictions are maybe struggling a bit right now in harness racing, so I maybe wouldn't want to be a young person starting out. But if I was, I would certainly tell young people to work hard and keep at it, and be honest and ethical, treat all your owners, partners, all your horses the same on an equal basis. And if you do all that, then success will come along. So always strive for perfection and strive for success. I guess that's all I've got. Like I said, I've got lots of advice, and that's basically what it all comes down to.
What is left on your harness racing bucket list?
Let me see. Never won the North American Cup yet, so I'd like to do that. We've had a couple of shots, and Tattoo Artist was second last 2 years ago, I guess, but never won that, so that'd be nice. I just like to, really and truly though, at my age now, it's gotten harder to. I still love training horses. I still break all my babies the old traditional way. We had about 14 babies last year, 12 babies, I guess. I enjoy those very much. So at my age, perhaps I'd like to just keep doing it, perhaps on a little bit lesser degree, and try to weed out the stress that has become issues now with me as you age. You just don't stay in it like you did when you were younger, and be around as long as they can and still enjoy every minute of life. As you all know, life can be very short, and it's not the party we all thought it was going to be, so maybe while we're here we'll enjoy the dance, and that's the way I look at it, I guess. Playing a leg is going to be a long one, live a leg tomorrow's your last.
Well, on that note, we're going to wrap it up. I want to thank Dr. Moore for getting up early to come and join us at our speaker series. Today, we will do another one of these in a half an hour. Drivers Dan Noble and Austin Hanners are scheduled to be here. I want to thank everybody who showed up in our audience, and we hope you'll come back to join us in about a half an hour. So from the Delaware County Fairgrounds, thanks for joining us. We'll see you shortly.
This has been Trackside Live. Trackside Live is presented by the Ohio State Veterinary Medical Center. Trackside Live is a production of the Ohio Harness Horsemen's Association.